I knew something was wrong the moment I stepped into that tiny apartment. The lights were off, but I could hear her voice. Not soft, not embarrassed. Laughing. I moved closer and saw her, my fiancée, straddling a shirtless janitor, a man who smelled like bleach and wore his work boots in bed. She didn't even stop when she saw me. Just smirked and said, "You really are that stupid, aren't you?" We were engaged. That word used to mean something to me. I thought it meant forever. I thought it meant trust. Her name was Rachel. We'd been together for almost 4 years, and I genuinely believed she was the one. We were 2 months out from the wedding. My mom had already picked her dress. The deposit on the venue was paid. The invitations were printed. She told me she had a late shift at the hospital. She's a nurse, and she'd be sleeping over in the staff room because she was on call. I didn't question it. I trusted her. That's the kind of man I was, trusting. Maybe too trusting. But that night, something didn't sit right. It was almost midnight, and I realized she'd forgotten her insulin pen. She has type 1 diabetes and never goes anywhere without it. It was still on the bathroom sink. I panicked. I tried calling her. No answer. Texts? Nothing. My hands were shaking as I got in the car. I drove to the hospital. Empty. No one had seen her since the afternoon. I sat in the parking lot staring at my steering wheel, replaying every weird moment from the past few weeks, how she started locking her phone, how she forgot to kiss me goodbye, how she always smelled like industrial cleaning products when she got home. Then I remembered her cousin's apartment. He was out of town, and she'd stayed there once or twice to get quiet time. I drove over. I had a key from when we helped her cousin move in last year. I opened the door slowly, didn't even turn on the lights. I heard movement, breathing, then laughter, and then I saw her. Rachel, naked, in the arms of a man twice my age, with dirt under his fingernails and a stained shirt on the floor. He had the telltale blue jumpsuit slung over a kitchen chair janitor, stitched in faded white across the back. She saw me standing in the doorway. Didn't flinch. Just said, "Guess the cat's out of the bag." I didn't say a word. I couldn't. My mouth felt glued shut. She got off the man like it was just another Tuesday, pulled a blanket around her, and lit a cigarette. Then she laughed. "I always wondered when you'd grow a spine. Guess it won't be today." I left. I drove home and sat in the dark for hours. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just sat there, like a ghost in my own life, trying to figure out when everything had started to rot. But deep down, I already knew. It started with me, with how easy I was to fool. And this was just the beginning. I wish I could say I woke up the next morning and felt strong, ready to walk away, ready to move on. But that's not who I was. I wasn't strong. I was the kind of man who still had her picture as my phone wallpaper. The kind who memorized the smell of her shampoo. The kind who stood there like a fool while she mocked me for caring. I didn't sleep that night. Just sat in my living room with the lights off, waiting for something to make sense. Around 6 a.m., I finally checked my phone. 2 missed calls from her. A text, "We need to talk." And like a fool, I agreed to meet her. She picked the diner near her place, the one we used to go to after church. I sat in the booth by the window. She showed up in yoga pants and sunglasses, like nothing had happened. No shame. No guilt. She sat down across from me and said, "So, are you gonna throw a fit, or what?" That hit harder than seeing her in bed with someone else. The way she looked at me, like I was pathetic, like I was supposed to grovel. "I just want to understand," I said quietly. My voice cracked on the last word. She leaned back, smirking. "Understand what? That I got bored? That maybe I needed something a little more exciting than you?" I felt my face flush. "You could have just told me, and miss out on seeing that look on your face right now," she said, laughing under her breath. "Come on, don't be so dramatic." I tried to keep it together. I told her we could work through it, that people made mistakes, that maybe, deep down, I'd failed her somehow. That's how low I sank. I blamed myself. She leaned forward, resting her chin on her hand. "You still don't get it, do you? You're safe. Predictable. You'd rather forgive me and pretend it never happened than grow a spine and leave." I didn't even notice I was crying until she rolled her eyes and said, "Oh great. Here come the waterworks." The waitress came by, but Rachel waved her off. "He's not hungry," she said with a smile. "He just came to beg." That broke me. I stood up. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely grab my wallet. I threw down a $20, not for her, for the waitress, and walked out without a word. That night she posted a photo on Instagram of her with the janitor. Caption, "Some trash is worth picking up." I still didn't block her. Still didn't delete our pictures. Still didn't tell anyone. Because part of me, some ruined part, still thought we could fix it. But that part was dying. And something else was starting to grow in its place. Something cold, sharp, focused. I wasn't ready yet, but I would be. I stopped texting her after that diner. I didn't answer her calls, but I still watched. Quietly. From the shadows of social media, from friends we used to share, from the digital fingerprints she didn't think I'd notice. It started the night she posted a selfie in his truck. That same filthy work truck I once helped him push out of a ditch during winter. The caption was, "Real men get dirty." She knew I'd see it. She wanted me to. It was a performance, and I was the audience. The weak, stupid, heartbroken audience. I almost messaged her. Almost. But then I remembered her face in that bed. The way she smiled like she'd won something. Like I was just a joke. And that's when something in me cracked. I opened a new email. New name. New photo. I called it Mason Green. A fake profile, professional looking. I added a work history in medical supply sales. Made it sound just boring enough to be real. Then I found her weakness. She just started applying to graduate programs. Something in healthcare administration. She was trying to move up. Clean up her image. Prove she was more than a nurse with a messy past. And to do that, she needed letters of recommendation. Clean transcripts. A pristine public image. I knew someone at the admissions office at Belrose University, my cousin Ellie. I hadn't spoken to her in a year, but we were close once. Close enough that when I called and told her I wanted to vet someone anonymously, she didn't ask questions. Just said, "Send me the name." I gave her Rachel's full name and email. She pulled her file. "Nothing official submitted yet," she said. "But she's in the early screening pool." Perfect. Next, I called in a favor from a guy I knew at work, Ron. He was quiet, always in the background, but he owed me from back when I covered for him during an HR investigation. "Can you run a background crawl on someone?" I asked. "You mean, like, legal?" He replied. "I don't care what's legal. I just want everything. Social, financial, deleted photos. I want the dirt." He didn't even hesitate. "Send me the name." 2 days later, I had more than I ever expected. Multiple Venmo payments labeled cleaning service from a second account tied to the janitor. But there was no cleaning service. He wasn't even licensed. They were funneling money under the table. Probably for sex. Maybe worse. Even better? He had a criminal record. Misdemeanors mostly trespassing, resisting arrest, a suspended license, but enough to raise eyebrows. I made a folder. Labeled it July Contingency. I filled it with everything. Screenshots. Bank transfers. A spreadsheet of timestamps. Copies of the worst text she ever sent me. Then I did the last thing she'd expect. I sent her flowers. White lilies. A note. "Congratulations on all your new beginnings. You deserve them." She posted a picture. Smiling. Holding the bouquet like she'd won. She thought it was over. She thought I'd moved on. But the truth was, I just started. The first strike had to be clean. Quiet. But undeniable. I didn't want her to see it coming. I wanted her to feel it before she even understood what it was. It started with her job. Rachel worked part-time at a private clinic. Decent place, decent pay, small enough that HR was basically just a two-person desk. One of those people, a billing manager named Clarissa, used to be our neighbor. We'd had them over for barbecue a couple years ago. Her husband and I used to watch football together on Sundays. So I called Clarissa. Didn't even have to lie. "Look, I know you're not supposed to tell me anything," I said. "But I thought you should know Rachel's been using your clinic's name on her grad school apps, and she's listing fake titles." She said she was a clinical director on one of them. Silence. "She's what?" I forwarded the screenshots. Rachel's resume. The fake recommendation letter she emailed to herself and forgot to delete from our shared cloud folder. It was all there. An hour later, I got a message from Clarissa. "Thanks for the heads up. HR's opening a review." I waited. 2 days later, Rachel's Instagram story was a black screen with a sad face emoji and the caption, "Why does life hit you all at once?" I smiled. That night, I launched phase 2. I emailed Belrose University's admissions office through my fake account, Mason Green. Subject, concern regarding applicant Rachel L. Healthcare Administration Program. Body. Dear Committee, I believe you may want to reconsider the integrity of one of your applicants. Enclosed are documents suggesting potential resume fraud and misrepresentation of professional experience. These materials were submitted under her name. I'm not affiliated with her personally, but as someone in the healthcare field, I felt compelled to report it. Concerned professional. I attached the fake resume, the timestamped edits, and even the job title discrepancy. That same evening, I logged into our old shared Netflix account. She still hadn't changed the password and saw she was watching a rom-com. Probably curled up with him. I changed the profile names. Mine became liar. Hers became user. And his? Sanitation. Then I logged out. Permanently. The next morning, I checked her LinkedIn. Profile, deleted. I checked her Venmo. Public transactions, gone. She was scrubbing her image. Frantically. I hadn't even said a word to her since that morning at the diner. But she knew something was happening. She just didn't know who was doing it. On Friday, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. Hey, we need to talk. Please. It was her. I didn't answer. On Sunday, she showed up at my apartment. I watched her through the peephole, hair in a messy bun, no makeup, hoodie zipped up to her neck. She knocked, waited, and then slid a note under the door. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. She was slipping. The woman who laughed in my face, who mocked me for being trusting, who posted photos with a man who unclogs toilets for a living, she was unraveling. And me? I was just getting started. I should have known it wouldn't end there. Rachel was quiet for about a week after I ignored her at my door. No texts, no calls. I assumed she'd finally taken the loss. But no, she was just biding her time. Her counterattack came on a Tuesday. It started with a phone call from my manager. Hey, can we talk? That tone. That slow, cautious tone, like he was trying not to step on glass. Sure, I said. What's up? We got an anonymous email. HR forwarded it to me. It says you've been misusing company time and data. I froze. What? He sighed. It came with screenshots. Your browser history. Some emails you sent from your work account. My chest tightened. I thought back. Yeah, I'd done some research on her from my office computer. Looked up her new boyfriend. Pulled up property records. Nothing criminal, but it didn't look good. I drove home early, opened my personal email, and found a new message. From a burner account. Subject, how's it feel? Body. You think you're clever? You think I wouldn't figure it out? You want to ruin my life over one mistake? Watch your back, genius. You're not the only one with screenshots. There was no name, but I knew. I went online, checked her social media. She was back. Not just posting, but performing. Photos of job interviews, yoga in the park, vegan brunches. And him, the janitor, wearing a suit jacket over his uniform, laughing with her in a diner. Caption, some men clean more than just floors. They clean your soul. Disgusting, but effective. The comments were full of support. People calling her brave, strong, glowing. One even wrote, you're better off without that corporate robot you used to be with. That one stung. I got curious. Too curious. I went to her profile, clicked on the tagged photos, and there it was. Someone had tagged her at a local podcast studio. She was rebranding. As what? A self-help influencer. The next day, I checked Spotify. There it was. Wreckage and Recovery, with Ratch. Episode 1. How to Escape a Toxic Partner and Rebuild from the Rubble. I listened. I couldn't help it. She told the story like she was the victim. Claimed I'd emotionally controlled her, that I weaponized kindness, whatever that means. She made it sound like I was some manipulative sociopath who left her for dead. She even cried. Fake tears. I knew that cry. It was the same one she used when we got out of a speeding ticket in Nashville. And it worked. Comments, likes, DMs, shares. People were eating it up. The clinic? They mutually parted ways. She framed it like she'd outgrown them. The university? Toxic culture, not a good fit. Her new boyfriend? A kind soul who saw her brokenness and chose to love her anyway. She was rising again, building a new version of herself out of the ashes. And me? I was getting HR warnings. Friends stopped texting. People started giving me weird looks at the gym. Somehow, she'd flipped the script. And I knew if I didn't do something fast, I'd be the one who disappeared. I was bleeding. Quietly. Not physically, but socially, professionally, reputationally. She turned me into the villain without ever naming me. Just enough detail for people to recognize me. Just vague enough to keep it artistic. I needed to claw my way back. But not with noise. With precision. So I called Ellie again, my cousin at Belrose University. You still got her application on file? She never formally withdrew, Ellie said. It's flagged, though. Good, I said. I need one more favor. I sent Ellie the link to Rachel's podcast. Told her which episode. Told her which timestamp. Why? Because in it, Rachel says this. I faked a letter from my old job because I knew they wouldn't give me a good one. I had to. You think people care about honesty when they're judging you on a piece of paper? Ellie didn't even hesitate. That's all I needed. Admissions, closed. One door slammed shut. Then I moved on to her new image. Wreckage and Recovery had maybe 1,200 followers. Not big, but enough to look legitimate. I found out the podcast studio she used offered a women in healing discount package. She bragged about it in her stories. Said they supported her mission. I created an anonymous Gmail. Then I sent the studio a message. Subject: one of your hosts is not who she says she is. I attached a Word doc with the timeline. 1. Her fake job title. 2. Her forged letter. 3. Her relationship with a man who had multiple misdemeanors, including trespassing on a hospital campus. 4. A still from a photo where he's clearly wearing her clinic's badge, despite not being employed there. I didn't ask them to fire her. I just asked one question. Is this the kind of story you want to platform? 2 days later, Rachel posted a tearful video. Due to scheduling conflicts and personal boundaries, I've decided to pause the podcast to focus on my healing journey. Translation: she got dropped. Strike 2. Now came the cleanup. I reached out to a mutual friend, Lena. We hadn't spoken in months. She used to love Rachel. Worshipped her, really. But Lena also hated being lied to. So I sent Lena a screenshot of the forged recommendation letter. The podcast audio where Rachel bragged about faking it. A message she once sent me where she called Lena a desperate hanger-on who always needs validation. Then I wrote, "You still think she's healing?" 2 hours later, Lena removed every photo of Rachel from her socials. And that night, I saw the best update yet. Rachel's support circle account went private. It was working. Her image, the thing she cared about most, was cracking. She thought she won. That I'd fold. That I'd go quiet. But I was done being the quiet one. She'd called me boring. Safe. Predictable. Let's see how safe she felt now. I underestimated her. I thought after I shut down her school, her podcast, and her fake little circle of healing sisters, she'd shrink back into silence. But Rachel doesn't retreat. She transforms. This time, she didn't go for me directly. She aimed higher. My job. It started with a Monday morning email from legal. Not HR. Legal. Subject: immediate attention required, outside harassment allegation. The email was clinical, but the attachment wasn't. There were screenshots. An anonymous claim that I was digitally stalking a former partner, weaponizing professional contacts to interfere with her livelihood, and coordinating a harassment campaign through third parties. They attached my fake email, the Mason Green one. They had the podcast tip, the university tip, even the email to the studio. Traced. She must have handed them over. Everything I thought was covert, she'd been quietly collecting. Like evidence. They called it patterned escalation. I sat in that meeting room with the general counsel and my manager, listening to the words reputational liability and internal ethics review. My mouth was dry. I couldn't even argue. I had done those things. I just hadn't thought she'd be smart enough to prove it. I got suspended. Not fired. Not yet. But I was told to stay off all company systems pending review. And the cherry on top? Rachel posted a story that same day. Just text. White background. Black font. Even when the truth hurts, you have to protect yourself from the ones who hide behind fake kindness. I stood up. Now I'm safe. People were cheering for her again. Her followers jumped back up. The same studio that dropped her? They reposted her video with the caption, "Accountability looks good on you." She wasn't just surviving. She was flourishing again. I was the one unraveling. Friends stopped answering. One even messaged, "Man, I saw what she posted." I don't know what's going on, but maybe let it go. Let it go? She lit my life on fire and people were handing her marshmallows. I sat in my apartment that night, lights off, laptop closed, staring at my phone as it buzzed with more fallout. She had turned me into a case study, and I was running out of options. But then I remembered something. Something small. Something she forgot. Something she never thought I'd hold on to. It wasn't much, but it might just be enough to turn the tide again. She thought it was over. She thought she'd buried me under a pile of well-crafted half-truths and curated victimhood. She'd built a new version of herself with followers, podcast quotes, and teary confessionals that made strangers fall at her feet. But Rachel forgot one thing. She forgot the lease. After we split, she moved into a one-bedroom over on Jefferson Street. She paid for it, but she needed a cosigner. Bad credit. No real job history. The podcast didn't pay anything, and the clinic had let her go quietly to avoid any noise. She begged me to sign as a favor. Said she didn't want to ask her parents. Said she'd be out of there in 6 months. I never removed myself. That lease was still active, and still tied to my name. I logged into the tenant portal that night. Password hadn't changed. And what I found? Gold. Rachel hadn't paid rent in 6 weeks. There were 3 warnings from the landlord, 1 formal notice, and a final message dated just 2 days ago. Eviction process begins Friday. She was hiding it. Still doing brunch content, while dodging property management like it was a sport. So I made a call. I told the landlord I was the cosigner, and I wanted to expedite the process. I offered to pay the overdue amount in full if they agreed to list the unit as breach of lease on her rental history. Is she aware she's in violation? He asked. She will be, I said. That night, I emailed Rachel a copy of the lease notice. Subject: you forgot something. Body: looks like your followers won't be able to help you with this one. Also, just a heads up, you might want to start packing. You've got 48 hours. No threats. No insults. Just the facts. The next morning, her tone changed. No more stories. No more empowerment quotes. Just a blank profile pic. The podcast account? Gone. Then the text came. From a new number. Please don't do this. Let's talk. I mean it. I didn't reply. She showed up that night at my building. Sat outside in her car for over an hour. I watched her from my window. Then I did something cruel. I turned off the light and went to bed. The next morning, she was gone. But my phone wasn't quiet. 3 messages. All from mutual friends. Hey, Rachel's been asking around about you. Everything okay? Just checking in. She told me you're making trouble. She said you're trying to ruin her life. That true? I didn't answer any of them. Because it wasn't about what they believed. It was about what she knew. She knew I wasn't weak anymore. I wasn't the man who begged at a diner or cried in the dark. I was the man who could make her lose sleep. I was the man she underestimated. And that made me dangerous. It was like watching a fire burn out of control just when you thought it was done. Rachel came back swinging. She found a lawyer. A good one. The kind that does image protection for influencers and minor celebrities. I only realized how deep she was going when I got served with a cease and desist letter on thick, cream-colored paper embossed with gold. The letter accused me of digital harassment, emotional coercion, and interference with public image and brand development. They didn't just want me to stop, they wanted damages. Financial ones. It wasn't a lawsuit. Not yet. But it was close. That same week, my suspension from work turned permanent. Officially, they didn't cite the harassment allegations. But everyone knew. My name was poisoned. No company wants a PR risk. Especially not a quiet one who suddenly ends up on someone's podcast as a lesson in narcissistic manipulation. And she didn't stop there. Somehow, don't ask me how, she spun the eviction story. Claimed she was pressured into signing a lease she couldn't afford. Said it was financial control, disguised as generosity. She even posted about the janitor again. Called him her rock. Said they were stronger than ever. And people? They ate it up. I was broke. Unemployed. Legally cornered. Socially erased. She'd won. Everyone believed her. Even people I thought were solid, guys I knew since college, started fading. They didn't want the drama. They didn't want to be caught in the middle of some he said she said between an abuser and a survivor. I didn't blame them. That's how clean she made it look. For a while, I shut down completely. No emails. No messages. No plans. I was done. Until the package showed up. No return address. Just a padded envelope. Inside, a flash drive. I plugged it in. 1 folder. No name. Just a timestamp. 6:42 p.m. Thursday, April 3rd. I clicked. It was a video. Shaky footage. Low resolution. But it was her. Rachel. On a balcony. Lit by string lights. Laughing. Holding a wine glass. And the janitor. Standing beside her. His face was turned, but his voice was clear. You know he could sue you, right? She laughed. Let him. He'd have to admit everything first. No one's gonna believe a guy like that now. Pause. She sipped. Smiled. Besides, she said, if he pushes me too far, I still have that recording from when he broke down. 1 edit, and he sounds insane. My stomach dropped. It wasn't just manipulation. It was strategy. Premeditated. She didn't survive me. She used me. Turned me into the perfect villain on purpose. And now? Now I had proof. I stared at the screen long after the video ended. That was it. The thing that could burn everything she built to the ground. No more podcasts. No more brand. No more healing queen in yoga pants selling self-help lies to lonely women on the internet. I had the nuclear button, and I knew how to press it. I didn't rush. I spent the next 48 hours preparing it all, clean cuts of the footage, a quiet little Dropbox link, a drafted email to her sponsors, the studio, the university, her new coaching collective. Subject: before you back her, watch this. I didn't need to write paragraphs. The video said enough. A smirking Rachel, holding a wine glass, laughing about forging a victim story, admitting to weaponizing my breakdown. I scheduled the blast for noon, 12 p.m. on the dot. At 11:13, my phone rang. Blocked number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me swipe. Silence. Then a breath. Then her voice. Please, don't. I froze. She spoke again, shakier now. I know what you have. I know you saw it. I didn't say anything. I was drunk. I was angry. I didn't mean any of it. I hung up. She called again. Again. I let it go to voicemail. At 11:28, another number called. Her mother. I declined. Then a text buzzed through. A photo. Her. On the floor. Tears running down her face. Makeup smeared. Knees to her chest. The message. Please. I'll do anything. I'm begging you. I stared at it. Then another came. This one hit harder. You win. You can destroy me. I deserve it. But if you ever loved me, don't do it like this. And for the first time in months, I felt something. Not anger. Not hate. Not victory. Just emptiness. I stared at the email I had queued up. My finger hovered over the trackpad. And then I closed it. I deleted the folder. The backups. The cloud link. Everything. She could keep her fragile little castle built on lies. Because I didn't need revenge anymore. I already won. She knew what I could do. She'd live with that fear. Every follower, every post, every paycheck would carry the weight of that video. And the knowledge that I chose not to use it, that's better than revenge. That's a sentence. We haven't spoken since. And I don't think we will. But sometimes, on quiet nights, I still think about it. About what I could have done. And I ask myself one question. What would you have done in my place?